a motor vehicle to which I am not operating a motor vehicle. And this is what we are trying to
I guess.
circumvent.
Yeah,
I am
and
operating my
it's not
automobile,
circumventing.
not a motor vehicle.
I will ask you this: how is your right to travel removed
by
by
trying
receiving
to
the
require
citation?
by trying to require me to have a license to operate a automobile, which is my private vehicle.
This is a civil infraction. If you were found responsible, all other things being equal, the court would assess $125 fines, costs, and fees. It is a 0-point ticket.
Today's case is a bit different from the usual. We've got another so-called sovereign citizen in court, but this one isn't going Ellen on the movement. It's like he's just testing the waters, tossing around a few buzzwords to see if it might get him out of trouble. Meanwhile, the magistrate looks like he's dealing with this kind of thing for the first time. He's calmly walking the defendant through basic court rules, almost like it's a beginner's law class. Do you think this guy truly believes what he's saying? Or is he just pretending to avoid consequences? Let's get into it. So the defendant is relying on Rodriguez v. Ray Donovan as his key to winning the case. The problem? That case took place in Texas under
and in the second case that ends with the letter B, that same date, time, and place, you were issued a citation for having an expired registration plate. That is also a civil infraction. It is also a 0-point civil infraction. If you were found responsible, all other things being equal, the court would assess $110 fines, costs, and fees. So first question, is that the ticket or the two cases that you thought you were appearing about, Mr. Williams?
It is.
Okay. And same question to you, Officer Kellums?
Yes, sir.
Very good. In every civil case, the plaintiff has the burden of proof. And in a case like this, that burden of proof is called by a preponderance of evidence.
Only question I have is, will the laws of the U.S. Supreme Court be applicable? And the federal statutes and definitions of motor vehicle and automobile be applicable in this proceeding?
They are the state of Michigan laws that will be applicable.
Okay. The other question is, are you already not bound by U.S. Supreme Court rulings?
Every court is bound by relevant Supreme Court rulings.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure why you're asking that, but that's okay. All right, Officer Kellums, if you would begin, please.
So on November 19th, 2024, I was on patrol for the Battle Creek Police Department. When I observed the vehicle that Mr. Roosevelt was driving, I observed that it had expired tags on the vehicle. I then conducted a traffic stop on Fountain Street near Meacham Ave. Found Mr. Williams to be driving the vehicle, where I issued him the citations. When speaking with Mr. Williams, he could not provide insurance, and his tags were expired.
All right. Did Mr. Williams say anything to you during the stop about having insurance or not having insurance, or anything about the tags on the plates, anything like that?
He informed me that he did not have to have insurance due to that he was traveling, and to drive a vehicle, you have to have insurance. Something regarding the Supreme Court. That's about all he said.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to consider anything else at this point, Officer Kellums?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Williams, could you hear Officer Kellums' testimony?
Yes, I heard his testimony.
Very good. Thank you for your patience. What do I need to know, sir?
Okay, I did inform Officer Kelly that I am not operating a motor vehicle, but I am operating an automobile. I did inform Officer Kelly of the ruling of Rodriguez v. Ray Donovan, U.S. Department of Labor, 769 Federal 2nd, 1344, where the U.S. Supreme Court's decision has ruled that all codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only and not for human creators. In accordance with God laws, all codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lacking due process.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. Are you telling me that a case at 769 Fed 2nd, 1344 indicates that all laws are unconstitutional?
All codes, rules, and regulations. Yes, sir. Rodriguez v. Ray Donovan. And if I'm not mistaken.
And you said that was Department of what?
U.S. Department of Labor.
Okay. U.S. Department of Labor doesn't publish decisions in the Fed 2nd. Um,
Okay,
can you
that
tell
is
me a little
incorrect.
bit more about the case? What was at issue in the case?
Completely different laws, and it has nothing to do with his current charges in Michigan. I'm not sure what he thought. What happened? Maybe the judge would just say, "Great point, case dismissed"? Definitely not. I have to say this magistrate is incredibly patient. Keeps explaining over and over that Rodriguez v. Donovan doesn't apply here. If it were me, I wouldn't be arguing with the one person in the room who has the final say on my outcome, especially over a case that's irrelevant.
It was regarding what we're discussing here, the requirements of a driver's license and the need when it's required to have one, stating that when you're not operating in commerce, to which I informed the officer that I am not operating in commerce as stated in USC 18 USCA 31 paragraph A6, states that a motor vehicle, the term of motor vehicle meaning every description of carriage, contrivance, propelled or drawn or mechanical powered and used for commercial purposes. This is what Title 18 USCA Section 31A6 states or defines as a motor vehicle, to which I am not operating in commerce. I'm not
For
using.
the purposes of that particular chapter of the United States Code, it would not control what happens in terms of the Michigan legislature defining in Chapter 257 what a motor vehicle is, and an automobile
Right.
under Michigan law is a motor vehicle. But okay, continue.
Right. It's a motor vehicle, which is described as anything, even by the Michigan compliance statute of 751, which you just stated, is determined as something that's transporting goods, which I'm not transporting goods.
I understand your position, and I can tell you that that position doesn't happen to be legally correct. But go ahead.
So you're basically stating that there's a misinterpretation of what's in black and white.
No, I'm telling you that you have misinterpreted the application of 18 USC 31A6 and 769 F second or Fed second 1344.
Okay,
But
well, I see where
I've
this
heard
is
your
going.
argument.
So there will be no further arguments because I see that you're not going to agree to, because like I said, I've given it to you, the cases.
Even the officer in the courtroom looks like he's heard enough. The magistrate is giving the defendant plenty of time to speak, but it's the same incorrect ideas on repeat. I understand being respectful, but at some point, you have to move things along. The defendant also struggles to get through his prepared statements without stumbling. It's clear, he thought, tossing out a few legal phrases over Zoom might make the case disappear. That's not happening.
Where they're like Shapiro v. Thompson, where the U.S. Supreme Court has said that a driver license is not a requirement, that you're trying to convert a right into a privilege, to which is covered by Article 1, Section 8, to which
I'll ask you this. Is that right, the right to travel?
that is a right to travel, convey, however you want it, by the U.S. Constitution.
What you just told me was that somehow but regardless, am trying to convert a right into a privilege. Now, the question I have for you is, what right has been converted to a privilege?
My right to freely travel unencumbered and
now,
unfettered.
I will ask you this. How is your right to travel removed by receiving the citation?
By trying to require me to have a license to operate a automobile, which is my private vehicle.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want me to consider?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I can tell you this. The Michigan motor vehicle laws, including the laws that require you to carry insurance, that require your vehicle to be registered, and require that registration to be current, do not run in violation of any right to travel under the Constitution or the United States Supreme Court decision that you have cited. In fact, Michigan courts have held that essentially the right to travel means the right for you to move from A to B, not the right for you to travel from A to B under your most convenient way. So you could walk from point A to B all you wanted. You could take a taxi or an Uber or a plane or a train or a bus. But if you wish to travel by using a motor vehicle, the Michigan laws are applicable and don't unconstitutionally interfere with the right to travel. It doesn't convert the right to travel into a privilege. You are not denied the right to travel. You may be denied the privilege of traveling via a motor vehicle that you are operating. So
Okay, so
that
I
that
stop
is
you.
that is what the law says, and that's what I'm finding. Is there
Okay,
anything else you
so
want me to consider about that finding?
Shuttleworth v. Birmingham, U.S. 147. Do you mind telling me what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in that?
US 147 doesn't give me the site of a case.
The magistrate remains calm, but he's spending a lot of time explaining things that should already be understood before. Coming to court in the end, this wasn't the usual heated, chaotic hearing we often see. The defendant seemed more curious than combative, like he was trying out a tactic rather than fully committing to it. The magistrate stayed polite and never bought into any of the arguments, though he might have been a little too patient. Eventually, it became clear the strategy wasn't working. The defendant left with a $235 fine.
That's an incomplete site of a case. Okay.
It was Shuttle.
And if you wish me to consider the case, why don't you tell me what was at issue in the case and what year it was decided?
I said Shuttleworth v. Birmingham, U.S. 147, 1969, where it says
hold
no
on.
license.
US 147 is not a complete cite. The way you cite to a case is by name and then volume number and then the name of the publication and then the page number. So, for instance, when you said 769 Fed 2nd 1344, what that means is volume 769 of a book or volumes called The Federal Reporter, second edition, at page 1344. So when you're asking me about this most recent case that you've talked about, what you said was US 147, I think. That's not the citation to a case. So you're going to have to tell me more about that case. Who were the parties to that case and what issue was before the Supreme Court in that case?
Okay, so you didn't hear me cite the name of Shuttleworth v. Birmingham?
I heard you say the name. That doesn't tell me what, that's not a complete cite of the case.
All right. Do you not have the documents that I filed when I filed to say that I want to have an informal hearing? The affidavit that writes that my
there are documents that have been scanned into the court that you dropped off.
Okay. So
from those documents, why don't you tell me the proper citation for Shuttle versus Birmingham?
Okay. Traffic infractions are not crimes, blah, blah, blah. Person faced with okay.
Right. Traffic infractions are not crimes. That's absolutely correct. They are civil infractions for a reason.
I was reading from a different case, but the case that I'm citing from states that no license necessary to drive an automobile on public highways, streets. No license is necessary. The word operator should not include any person who solely transport his own property and who transport no persons or property for hire.
Where's that citation from?
Okay, I just appeal it, and that way I can make sure all citations are.
That's fine. I mean, the idea is I can't look up what you're telling me, right, without a proper citation. So you can read. I mean, for all I know, and I don't mean this, I'm using a farcical example. For all I know, you're quoting the municipal court in Honolulu, Hawaii, which has no jurisdiction over Michigan.
It's understandable.
I don't know.
Okay, so I would cite Payne v. Massey, 19196 Southwest 2nd, 493, Texas, 273.
Okay. Well, and I can tell you that Texas law, a court interpreting Texas law, that decision wouldn't be controlling on a Michigan court. But that's fine. I think I understand where you're going. If you want.
That's actually pretty light compared to what others have faced. It probably helped that he wasn't openly disrespectful. What do you think? Should the magistrate have been firmer? Or was his calm approach the right call? If you enjoy following these kinds of cases, remember to like and subscribe. I've got new ones coming every day.
I don't need to consider anything else. I'm just asking you, is there anything else
Okay, well,
you want to present to me?
if you're not going to consider anything else, then we can proceed on to your ruling, of which I know you're going to find. So, and like I
But
said,
not,
like you said, I have a right to appeal it. So,
yeah, and I'm willing to listen. If you're going to quote something, I need to know what you're quoting, and I need a proper citation so I can look it up myself, right? Because otherwise, people could just run around quoting Mickey Mouse if they wanted.
is my automobile not my private, personal automobile that's not being used in commerce?
I would have no idea the use of your motor vehicle, and it's not relevant to me for the purposes of deciding whether you're responsible for these civil infractions.
Okay. Well, I have nothing else for you to consider.
Well, very good. I'm letting you know the law does not make a distinction between your using the vehicle for personal reasons or you're using the vehicle for commercial reasons when
But this,
your registration plate is expired and
but
when
the,
you fail to show proof of insurance. Both of those are
but the
required.
MCL language.
Both of those are required under Michigan law for anyone operating any motor vehicle. That's what I can tell you. So,
Correct.
if you
A motor vehicle, to which I am not operating a motor vehicle, and this is what we are trying to
I guess,
circumvent.
yeah,
I
and
am operating
it's
my
not
automobile,
circumventing.
not a motor vehicle.
I can tell you that an automobile is considered a motor vehicle under the Michigan Motor Vehicle Code. So that's fine. Is there anything else you want me to consider?
Nope.
Very good. All right. So I've listened very carefully to the evidence. I do find that it's more likely than not that when you were required to by Officer Kellums at a traffic stop show proof that your vehicle was insured, that you failed to do so, and that it is more likely that your operator's, or not your operator's license, I'm sorry, the registration plates on the vehicle were expired. So I'm going to assess the $125 on the no proof of insurance case and the $110 on the expired plates case. All right. Thank you both for your time and patience. You're all set. Have a very good day.
Thank you,
Sure
sir.
will.
You too.